Hey everyone, welcome to another Open Cluster Management Community meeting. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Min Kim for presenting OCM IO in the CNCF Tag one-time meeting. There were developers from companies like Intel and Apple that attended, and they asked some interesting questions. I think Min Kim answered them all perfectly. So just want to give a shout out to Min Kim for staying up and presenting our community to CNCF. Another service announcement we want to make is if you feel like this meeting is conflicting with your personal schedule, feel free to reach out to us in our Slack channel or mailing list. This community call is a way of communication, but not mandatory, and we can form lazy consensus on some key decision asynchronously. Okay, Okay, then let's move on to the topics we want to discuss today. First up, we have Q Jang, who's going to drive the discussion around improving our user experience. So Q Jang, without further delay, please take it away. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this one that I actually have privately discussed with Ming, and there are also some discussion between others about what's the user the user experience on OCM. So we get some feedback. So let me share my screen at first. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so the background is we have some feedbacks like the feedbacks that I think that what I understand mainly in two. One is that so based on the user experience. The first one is it seems that in the OCM there are many API concepts like the cluster set banding, the placement, class claim, etc. So it might be it will be not easy for a beginning of the user to understand all the things. So that's one of the feedback. Another one is I think more about the application deployment, like when we have basic management environment, how a user can easily deploy applications on this environment to the multiple clusters. I think today we still need to do more things, like you might need to enable some add-ons, and then you need to create cluster set, cluster banding schedule, and then create a placement, for example, and then create a subscription if you use a subscription. So that will be a lot of steps, and maybe the user need to learn or understand a lot of things before they can just do a simple application deployment. So that's feedback that we got from someone, I think from the community. Yes, so that's the reason that I want to create this document. This document is just to collect the use cases that we think we could improve the user experience in OCM. For example, that's one thing that I discussed with actually that is raised by Mike is maybe we could improve the Helm client ability, so I can easily deploy a Helm chart by just using the client cluster EDM to deploy a Helm chart with one single command. But that's just one use case. So I'd like to discuss about what other things that we think will help to improve the user experience for the OCM.
Yeah, Chujian, I will add a little more based on Chujian's opinion. we mentioned there are many models, API models in OCM. I think we should probably group the models, like classify the models based on the user cases, based on the scenarios, so that they can understand, oh, when I do this, I need the model ABC. Then in another use cases, we need a whole different set of API models. So, or the other way around, if I don't need any other modules, we only need the registration, we only need the manager clusters, etc. So it's kind of like controlling the optionality of the models based on the use cases. But anyway, the improvement of the API models can be done by enhancing the documentation on our home site. And for example, and the more explanations of why we need these models, for example, the placements, or why we had a dedicated model of placements. What's the merits about the placement? And I think that's what I can think of.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's a good point. We actually need to have more talk about why, what's the scope of each API and how can it be used. So I actually also I want to understand, like, what do we want if we, I mean, for example, if I run the class ADM to set up the OCM, what's the next step that we expect? So, for example, when you run the init and join, that you have multiple cluster added and available. So, in the next step, what do we really want to do? Someone might want, so that's the use cases that I actually want to I want us to add it in this document so that we can get some direction on how do we improve in the future. Yeah.
Yes, we have several scenarios in the documentations.
Yes.
I think if I am remember correctly, our doc after the quick start, which is in guiding the users to do the cluster registration, and then the users are supposed to move on to the scenarios. For example, distributing distributing resources to multiple clusters is a scenario, and for now, the other scenario is to like pushing API requests, which is done by the OCM add-ons.
Yes.
But there can be definitely more, like, and they should be ideally they should be categorized in a in a hierarchical view, or like they can be better categorized or classified. For example, there are some I think for the beginner users of OCM, they can be kind of lose the track of can be losing the track after the cluster registration, when they read when they are reading about the managed cluster sets, because there are few documentations about that. It's we can probably start by um, um, telling users in the scenarios how to group the managed clusters, and what is and also by that documentation we can elaborate more about what is an application namespace, or the workspace namespaces. We should stick with one term for that, by the way. And yeah, so that users can understand the differences between the cluster namespace and the application namespace. It's not I suppose it's not clearly documented for now, the differences between them.
Right, I think we didn't have a clear definition about the different category of the namespace right now.
Yeah, and also just like the placements, we can show the users why we are separating the two different kinds of namespaces and what's the advantage of that, yada yada yada.
Hmm.
So a lot of the information are on the website. Do you think it'll help that we link out to the website after the cluster admin? What is the last step? I think it's the approve step. So when you run cluster admin, the tool, you start from init, and then after every command, it sort of can guide you what you should be running on the next steps. But on the final steps, it just say, yep, I approve the CSR, I approve the managed cluster, and then it doesn't say anything else. Do you think it'll help just print out a simple message saying, okay, you're all set for this managed cluster. You can visit the website here in the scenarios here, and then the user, that might be another quick, easy guide for the user to continue onward. What do you think, Eugene?
Um, yeah, we can start by that, and um the anyway, yeah, we should definitely add more content after the cluster registration, like uh for example, mm, yeah. I think yeah the current state of the because our OCM is modularized is everything is a model, so um I think for now there are few the connections between the each models are weak, so we can complete the user stories by we can by like showing the users after the quick start. If you want this, you go to that. If you want that, you go to that.
Yes.
So I took a look at the quick start, and I feel that the quick start is rather incomplete. First, it does not. I mean, I feel that at the beginning it should tell a story about what the end goal we want to achieve by using a graph. For example, we will probably create a
Ah,
multi-class of two members with something like one application. Then, but the quick start actually ends after the members joined. Then there's nothing about deploying applications.
Hmm.
So basically, creating a multi-cluster with two clusters is not the end goal, right? Once you create, what's the purpose of creating that? If you, I would think Quickstart should at least include we deploy the application to two clusters, then we are done.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, that's the thing that I'm right. Also, I want to get some opinion, like, deploy application is one of the end goal, and I think access, for example, if you install the cluster proxy add-on, you also can access some clusters. That will that be an end goal in some cases? So I that's really something that I don't know how to define.
I think the overall the spirit is to organize the documentations from a perspective of end users. For now, our documentation is like for a development framework. It's for the extension. It's developer oriented instead of end user oriented. So just role play as a end user, and end users are looking when they are reading the documentations. They're like they should be really clear what am I expecting from the documentation, things
Okay.
like that. And some of complicated. We have a few manual kubikato commands in the documentation. I think some of them can be simplified by a cluster ADM. For example, for example, we can like
So
like
for that,
if we have sure,
for that,
sorry.
I have a suggestion. I saw that other tools, they usually often provide a one-line command. Say, basically, I'm feeling lucky. Just run this one-line command, and you will see the end goal is done, basically. Then, if you want to check step by step, then follow the guides step by step.
Yeah.
Okay. You mean the one-line command, and then you can achieve the end goal for the quick start. That
Yes.
yes, something like cluster EDM quick start. That's something that you.
So basically, we can create a script or something, then user just probably provide a couple parameters, then everything will be done. So basically, the application will also be our own application, right? It's just a sample application. Then the end goal is achieved, then they can basically inspect the end goal. That's what they want to see, right? Basically, they want to see whether, like, what the end result look like. If they can achieve that using one step, then it's more likely user will try it, then see what they can achieve with this tool.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good use case. I may put it here later. Yeah. So, any other comments? I will just leave the doc here. So if you could help, it will be very helpful if you could add more use cases and some possible solutions in this doc.
Okay. Kijang, are there any other things you want to mention regarding UX experience? UX?
Not for me. I think I just expect more comments in this doc. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kijang. Oh, Minkyung, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm thinking about probably we should have we should improve the operability of application namespace, or the workspace namespace where we manage cluster sets. For now it's there's no so we're basically managing multiple clusters from a workspace namespace, but we can aggregate all the resources in that application or that in that workspace namespace. It's we have to frequently switch between each namespaces to check out the underlying status. We can I'm thinking of the like some in some commands, for example, the PS tree or the PS, like they can be visualizing the hierarchical of the multi of the resources. Like so, it's intuitive to show to visualize um uh, the multi-cluster resources by in a tree view. Um, so or we can just for example we can start by an easier thing. For example, if a workspace has been binded to a managed cluster set, then we can do something like cluster ADM, then list workspace namespace, then the connected cluster namespace status and distributed resources will be aggregated, will be visualized.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
I think in general, our commands also takes in quite a bit of parameters. For like the beginners, if we can simplify and just have less parameters, that might help as well. For example, the command that we're trying to add, the one line command line, hopefully hopefully it won't even take in much parameters and it'll just assuming hey you have some of the stuff installed, and then because with more parameters it gets a lot more difficult for the user to use, and they just might give up before they even run it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, are there any more suggestions? Okay, if not, the next topic, I think, thank you, Kujang. The next topic is Yuan's going to talk about the 0.6 GA and then the kickoff plan for 0.7 for OCM. Yuan, please take it away. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Let me share my screen. Okay, can I see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your strong support for the 0.6.0 release, and we target 2 GA today. Currently, most of the tasks has been done, and we still have a slight enhancement for one PRs in this issue to allow class manager to run set of hub cluster. So if we could not get the PR merge today, we may need to exclude this issue from this release and postpone to next release. And after that, we have to remind each repo owner to add a tag and change log for your repos, so we can get all the release packages done by today. Then for I do see some comments left in some issues, like for the Argo CD use cases, and we saw Mike can give some use cases shared here. So please take a look. So another questions for current release. If not, we also need to kick off planning for next release. At the start, I added 4 tasks here. 2 are postponed from 0.6.0 release about placements enhancement. And in next release, we want to GA placement and also the cluster set API. So in case you have any feedback for those 2 placements, please also add your comments. I think if there have any user experience enhancement proposal, you can add to Chujan's document here. For the and besides that, we also have a plan to support multi-hub for a magic cluster. We added some detailed use cases in the issues here, so please take a look offline and leave your comments there. And besides that, we have slight change to the add-on enhancement. So for any add-on agent, they can use Helm chart and Go template to get their own installation. So those are the current plan from Red Hat side for this release. So since me, you're here, do you have any plans from your side for next release? Can you share with us?
Yeah, sure. I can open another PR. We have a few proposals. Some are about enhancing the to have a fine-grained identity separation of the work agent, for example. It's kind of like the connections between pod and the service account. For each of the pods, we are declaring the expected service account to mount, so that the pod can use the service account to request the hosting clusters. And probably I'm expecting we can do the similar things for the work API. For example, we have now we have a managed cluster, which is the concept of multi-cluster service accounts, and we can connect the work we can connect the manifest work with that multi-cluster service account. So that it means that we're gonna when we are distributing resources using that work, all of the executions are done by the multi-cluster. All of the executions are done by the local service account, which is connected to the multi-cluster service accounts in the hub side. So I think that this is the primary things I'm thinking about in the next phase. And also we have the status feedbacks, which is an awesome feature in this release. And probably we can start the POC or a new subproject that exercise the multi-cluster workload distribution. For example, previously I opened a proposal that shows us how to use a new API named Elastic Workloads, which is doing the like shifting the replicas between multiple clusters for us. For example, we can declare the total replicas in an Elastic workload and the initial distribution for each of them, and the workloads, the controllers will be calculating the ideal distribution and execute. And when there are some failovers in some managed clusters, then the workloads can be temporarily shifting to other candidate clusters, which can be done by the placement API. But I didn't think it through yet, so we can probably start by a POC. And
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think another thing. I think there are two other things. One is about the secret, putting the manifest work. So there are some feedback previously in the community Slack channel that we might need a more secure way to transfer the secret from the hub to the managed cluster, but not just pay the raw payload of secret in the manifest work. So I think that's something I will create an issue later on that. For how do we handle the secret in the manifest work. Another thing that I'm not sure whether Ryan want to plan in the next release is about the push mode that they are currently working. So I'm not sure whether. So Ryan, would you? Are you going to?
So I don't know the process very much. Actually, I have some questions about release. Um,
Hmm.
if I understand correctly, there's not really a custom base for OCM. So what does that release and GA status mean then?
It's not. So we actually don't call it. Maybe it's not the good way to say it. It's GA. So currently we have a release. It's like you have a version, and we know what's a version of. So that's a stable version. Like if you use a stable version of the registration and work, commonly we can ensure that it includes a certain set of the correct features in that. And so we didn't cut the release branch yet. We just tag and then build a released version of the images. So you can use that released version of the images. In the operator hub, we also have that's in the operator hub we also have a operator that you can use. So that is a certain release that you can use to install the operator and then install something other like the classlet and cluster managers on your cluster. So that's the main idea of the release.
So another reason I ask this is we have many controllers, right? How many do we? And we have more than one image. At least we have. I think we will have the hub one, we have the cluster one, and we probably have add-on ones, register. I'm not 100% sure how many images are there. So does it mean that all these images need to be on the same version? They don't like there's compatibility problems that if we
No, we don't require that. So there are someone that so we called it an OCM release, and in the OCM release, you could have different image with different tag. So today, like if today, for example, the registration is in 0.6, but the placement is in 0.2, and if you take a look at the cluster proxy, I think it's 0.13. So we just have a release and have a release announcement and that's a lot more like a group release. The group is 0.6, but in that we will tell in the website that this is what is contained in this group release, but the image could be different, and each add-on could be in different release version.
I see. So going back to your question, we are not 100% sure if we can move into the OCM org yet. And if we do that, because if the PRD actually may propose some API changes, and so it may take more collaboration and the proposals to move that forward. For now we are kind of playing with it on the side. Probably maybe in the next release cycle we may be able to merge some of our working and at least try to merge some of our working.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I think maybe would you help to create a issue on that on the maybe on the API repo, OCM repo, so we can know that something that is happening. And so for the API change, I think we always are welcome, but we need to ensure that it's backward compatible. That's all. And then
And talking about this, currently most of our issues are logged under community issues, but we do see some backlogs logged under each repo. In case you log into each repo, since I don't have permissions to add milestones, please ensure the milestone is set correctly. Like here, if you want to put it to kind release, give the correct milestones here, then we can filter it in our roadmap dashboard. So it's like, for example, here, this issue is logged under registration operator. For this one, I don't have permission to set the milestones, and we need repo owners to help set a correct milestone for it, or else we could not do the correct filter in this roadmap dashboard. Okay. Since we have a long list of those backlogs, I don't think we have enough time to go through them. So please take a look offline and give comments for some ones you feel valuable. And we do have more issues logged from our policy and app lifecycle team. So in case you feel someone more important, give some comments or feedbacks here. And also, I think we need to review them and label some easy to fix ones as a good first start. As I know some new contributors want to engage with our community and start with some easy pieces. So if you feel any issues are easier to fix, so please give out good labels here. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm a user of as a user of OCM. Can I raise some questions in the end of this meeting?
Yeah, sure.
I see the multi-couple architecture of a managed cluster. I see this topic. Maybe my question is same as it, maybe or not. I want to know what is the multi-hub cluster solutions.
Okay. So
yeah. So yeah, I think that's a diagram in the Red Hat part, but that's the basic idea is that
we can talk about it in the end of the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, Yuan, do you have any other thing that you want to discuss?
No, that's all from my side. So please log issues if you have plans for their 7 release. So give the correct milestones. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe I just took like 5 minutes to talk about what is we think in the multi-hub thing. So the scenario that we met is like you have multiple management plan that want to manage the cluster. In our case, it's like you have on-premise control plan that you want to manage a cluster, and also you have a cloud service that you want to manage the cluster. So each of them could be considered as a hub, the management service on the cloud and your on-premise, like your on-premise environment management plan. So that's the reason that we have this diagram, that you have a hub on your private environment that you want to manage Kubernetes cluster, and on the other side, you want to have a PaaS service or SaaS service to do the same to do the management. Maybe the two roles have different permissions and have different operations on the managed cluster. but we are thinking topology that on the managed cluster you can run multiple agent, but the agents is connect to different hub. So you could have multiple roles to manage the cluster. Does that make sense to you?
Overall, I think in this architecture, we should, so if I'm understanding correctly, there will be multiple sets of registration agents and work agents in the managed
Yes.
clusters. In the original architecture, we only have one. So it's kind of like transferring some managementship to each of the hub clusters. It's delegating a portion of the managed clusters to the hub. So
Yes.
I think the key is I think we should avoid at best avoid overlapping of those sets of agents. Otherwise, there will be conflicts between the agents. Like
Yes.
yeah, the most intuitive way to achieve that isolation is to separate to make sure the RBAC scope of these agents are not overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I missed this. What is the motivation for this request?
So our scenario is that we have some. I'm not sure whether others have the same scenario, but we have some scenario like you have a Kubernetes cluster, let's say OpenShift, and that OpenShift is managed by the Red Hat Cloud Service, but on the same time, the customer will have their own way to manage the same cluster. So some part of the operation capability is transferred to the Red Hat service because there will be SRE to help to do something like upgrade some services on that, to monitor and to check whether there is something happens, and the customer can open some ticket to the Red Hat SRE to help them to resolve this issue. So in this way, but on the other side, the customers still want to manage all the clusters that has in a different scope, like deploy the applications, for example. But SRE will not do that. They may just do things like checking whether something happens and monitor something. So this is as Ming said, the RBAC permission for the two hub might be different, but there's a case like you have two different people, two different groups that want to manage the same cluster with different responsibility.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe I have different scenarios in production.
Yeah.
I deploy a OCM cluster, a hub cluster, and manage the clusters. And I want to deploy a backup hub cluster. When the first hub cluster is in error, I can quickly add the managed cluster to join the second hub cluster. This is the high availability solutions that user want.
Yeah.
So for my experience, it is not implemented in the OCM in current release.
Just curious, can you tell us what are your customers? Big customers, more like what type of customers are you talking about?
I have two hub clusters. One hub cluster manages the clusters, and the managed cluster is joined to the first hub cluster, but are not joined to the second hub cluster. When the first subcluster is in error, for exception, in exception, and via APIs, I can quickly add the managed clusters to the second hub cluster, and the manifest workers and applications can be restored quickly in the second hub cluster. This is my question.
Yeah, at first we don't have that in the OCM yet. I think that might be something related to the multiple hub here, maybe a different scenario. So I would suggest that you could add the scenario that you have in this issue, so we can.
Okay,
can put.
Okay. I will add it in the issue.
I think we are talking about the active-passive higher availability of the hub cluster. But in this multi-hub architecture, we can also achieve some sort of higher availabilities by, for example, vertically separating the business scenarios, separating the hub clusters into multiple logical hub clusters. Then, so that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I mean, I think, especially for the running sort of active, which isn't exactly what this design was after initially. It was more of a split of two different ones. But running an active, we should definitely open a document if we don't have one already, like in the enhancements, and we can contribute. Like there are ways to do it with GitOps today with OCM to get where you should be able to run, in theory, active with your manifest works delivered with GitOps to both of them, and you can just have them collide with each other, or you can deliver a portion of it to one and a portion of it to another, and again, when there's an outage, if the hub goes down, the workload that was on the managed cluster still runs, and you just activate the GitOps flow to pull whatever was on that one onto the, you could split it, or you could have it all on one, and then just have the GitOps pick it up on the second one, apply the manifest work into the managed clusters, in this case where they're both honed, like a cluster is honed to two OCMs, and have it apply. So there's some stuff we could build this way with this for sure in that active space.
Sorry, my English is not good. You speak too quickly. And
well, that's why I want to start a doc. Why don't we? So either we can add it on here, or we can start another one for sort of and relate it to this, because the connections, having the dual connection is useful, but you can, once you have that connection using GitOps flows and some of the others, it's possible to recover very quickly the OCM.
I know some solutions about etcd high availability solutions, but but they are not the goal or the user wants to achieve.
Yeah, I think that I would suggest that maybe not quite suitable to add comments in this issue, but I think I'm not sure whether we have the high availability issues in the community, but I think maybe we create one high availability issues about the hub on the OCM, and we could link to this issue. So then maybe we can then discuss in this that issue, and maybe some talk in the future about what solution that we should do. I think there might be multiple solutions for high availability. Like you could use GitOps, as George said, or you could use Valero. But yeah, we can discuss in that issue.
Okay, I will add it in at our issue. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, please log a issue, and I think Josh can also provide his GitOps solution to the issue, and we can continue the discussions. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So, any other questions?
By the way, I also see that KCP in that architecture diagram. So I just wonder if introducing KCPs into the architecture will significantly simplifies the architecture. Like
yeah, I want to that's very, I don't know. So currently KCP is still in a very early stage, even today, that it changed very fast. I mean, there are a lot of different ideas in that space, but I don't really think they have make the final decision on what's a route, what's a path forward. So that's the reason that we didn't we haven't done many things related to KCP yet. So I'm not sure whether we should open an issue or something that relates to KCP and have some discussions on that. So I'm not so George, do I have some comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say we're playing with it in a sandbox here, and it's not clear yet where the integration points are with OCM. We're trying to, or I guess we're working with the team to sort of come up with different ideas, but they're not really at a place yet, is maybe the way I'll put it, that they're quite ready for us, is maybe the best way to put it. But we definitely, as KCP matures and there's sort of a clear integration point for OCM, the plan is to try to connect those together. And at that point, we'll definitely put an enhancement issue in to talk about what we'd want to do in that plane.
Can someone tell me what is KCP?
KCP is kind of like creating a sandbox API server and then being able to, so you can scaffold up. If you go and look, you can look up KCP, the community is out there. So, but it pretty much gives you a standalone, or not standalone, an API server that you can run on top of Kube that you can then define. It has a couple of the base declaratives like namespace, and I think it has, I don't even think it has pod to be on. Sorry?
Workspace.
It's namespace and like one or two others, and then you add the CRDs you want, and then you're able, they give you some scaffold that sits underneath it, or you build your own that figures out what to do with those CRDs. So they don't process really inside of KCP, they process below it on a Kubernetes system. And so the fact that it uses a Kubernetes system is where we think we can marry OCM to it, because OCM is all about providing kube system, or a fleet of kube systems, and making those available.
Let me see if I understand. Sounds like, does that make it easy to run like multi-tenancy on OCM?
It could, yes. It could give you a multi-tenancy depending on how you build the shim, I guess it's called, that goes between KCP and the Kubernetes that are below it.
Okay. I'll look it up. Just search KCP, I can find it?
Yep. If you do GitHub and KCP, you'll find it.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
I linked it in the chat as well.
And it doesn't actually stand for anything, believe it or not. I think they actually say that on their README page, that it's not an acronym for once. I mean, maybe it's kube, but I don't know what the CP. But they say that. But anyways, you're on the money. The use cases for KCP as a sandbox are wide ranging, but there's also this opportunity to use it as a tenancy controller. The part that makes it maybe easy and difficult is that it's like literally a blank slate. And so if you wanted to bring OCM, you need to bring all of OCM's CRDs, and then you need to build an implementation underneath that it hooks up to, that sort of translates that down into an actual kube system to then process the set of CRDs for you, type of thing. But you're on the right track. It's definitely has that potential.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you, Josh, for that explanation.
No problem.
I have the last question I want to expose is the boundary of OCM and OM. I'm in doubt whether to choose OCM as the infrastructure in production, as we have some projects to deploy, and I'm in doubt whether to choose OCM or not, and the boundary of OCM and OEM. When the roadmap of OCM is conflicted with OEM, what is going on for OCM? This is the key point for me to choose OCM.
So by I think by OAM you mean the Open Application Model, which is actively developed by another team from Alibaba Cloud, which we have a lot of integrations with their project Kubivela and OAM, etc. I don't think there's going to be a conflict between OCM and Kubivela or OAM in the future, because we do have a native application models in OCM, which is a CRD in the subscription module. But if you take a look at the CRD, it's like the model of our application is really neat. But I think it's easy to link our application model to OAM's application model, because the OAM application model is much more sophisticated. Anyway, I don't think there's gonna be conflict between the two application management system. And the other way around, we are thinking about building more integrations between the two communities. But that's going on in our it's more of a internal things in our Alibaba Cloud. But I'm definitely happy to share with you more details about our ongoing integrations and and some other things. So we can like expand that, continue the discussions in our Slack channel if you are interested. What do you think?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to mention, even on our website, we have, in one of the scenarios, we have integration with OAM to do one of the scenarios that Kim provided. So we are definitely working with OAM, and so it's cooperation between two communities, and we're not having any conflict. Okay, thank you for that question and answer, Min Kim. Are there any other comments, questions? I posted the other additional communication channels in chat. Feel free to see the links. as well as our websites. If there are no more topics, take care, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.